I remember the first time we caught eyes. Those were the devil's eyes, and I couldn't stop looking at them. Here I was, my first week of college, and I fell headfirst into a toxic relationship. I remember she was in a relationship when we first met, and I empathized with her as she told me how her boyfriend would abuse her. With all my mom taught me growing up as a victim advocate, I felt like it was my responsibility to free her from that pain. I remember hearing him cry when she broke up with them and begging her not to leave him. And without a second to heal, we were together. We were moving so fast. We went from strangers to lovers to roommates. All of my friends knew she was trouble, but I refused to accept it. We shared similar backgrounds, we both made music. I had tunnel vision on the good things, and I was far too close to see the deception. Within a month, we had our first major fight, and to make matters worse, we were both inebriated. She left her phone in my possession, and I accidentally left it on the bus that led us from our dorm to campus. She screamed at me in front of everyone and made me feel so ashamed and embarrassed. She even left me in my seat alone, and she sat across from me flirting with the frat boys as she stared at me out the corner of her eyes. My best friend at the time told me she wasn't worth the pain, but I was a glutton for punishment and somehow always found justification to forgive her when she was sober again. She wanted to control everything. We always had to do what she wanted to do, go where she wanted to go. She didn't even want me spending any time with anyone else if she wasn't a part of it. It was to the point that I can remember feeling guilty and paranoid meeting new friends and hanging out with them when she wasn't around. I would hide it. I would just try to avoid the huge fights that would blow up as a result. What a way to spend my first year at college, right? 3 months and 100 fights later, she hit me for the first time, taunting me, knowing I wouldn't react, taking advantage of my compassion for her. And she'd always find a way to play the victim and twist it back on me like it was my fault, and I believed it. Our first time apart during Christmas break, she stayed an extra week in Richmond for her classes, and she went to party after party, and when she returned, she confessed to me that she got too drunk one night at a party and woke up in bed with another man. She didn't remember what happened. She never remembered. She couldn't just get buzzed. It was always sober or blackout drunk. And she conveniently forgot all of the things that I could never forget. The same week, she sent me photos of a positive pregnancy test, and within 2 weeks supposedly had a miscarriage. Come to think of it, I don't even believe she was even ever pregnant. It was all just a part of the manipulation, and I felt trapped. Every conversation turned to a fight, which ended with her threatening me with cheating, leaving, or even embarrassing me on social media, or the worst, hurting herself. Then she'd hang up and block me for long periods of time, and I felt hopeless, and eventually we broke up and my heart was broken. And after 3 weeks, we spoke again, and for some reason, I still wanted her back. I tried to set boundaries and take things slower, but she would punish me by having sex with so many different people because we technically weren't dating, because I was trying to take things slowly. I didn't even know at the time. She even had sex with one of my friends at the time, unbeknownst to me, right after we were just together in the same night. I felt so worthless. I remember walking over 20 blocks that night, crying because I hated myself but loved her so much. I kept trying to make it work, and my life became a downward spiral. I became really depressed, crying every day. There was so much pressure on my chest. I convinced myself that suicide was the only solution to give me freedom from the pain. I was flunking out of school, and I overall just felt like a huge failure. So I confided in her, and she told me to just do it already. And at that night, at 3 a.m., I was outside crying to the heavens, punching a brick wall until my knuckles were raw. Something inside me told me to hang on, and gratefully, I woke up the next morning and I felt a huge relief and I felt empowered. I remember how her ex was crying on the phone when she left him, and how she told me that he was an abuser. Now I was the one crying on the phone, and she told all of her friends around the school that I was an abuser. It's funny how that works. After a year together, she had bullied me, broken me down, depleted my self-esteem, and I needed a change. I was only 19 and I couldn't imagine spending my entire life like this. I saw her at a party. She tried flirting with my best friend, and when I confronted her, she screamed at me in front of everyone and ripped the bracelet that she gave me off my wrist, and everyone stared at me as all the beads fell and clacked on the hardwood floor. That was the final straw. My friends and I left, and for once, I didn't answer the phone once when she called me back. I ignored every call, and after a week, she had already found a rebound, and I never saw nor heard from her ever again. I honestly never really told this story publicly because it honestly feels kind of emasculating, to say the least. This toxic relationship really broke me down, but it led me to a new journey of self-care and honestly led me to finding God, to finding purpose. I took on a lot of bad habits when I was with her, and I still struggle with them even 6 or 7 years later. Cigarette addiction, low self-esteem, and distrust in all my relationships since. Even 4 years into my relationship now with my current girlfriend, some things just trigger that trauma and make me feel like I'm still back there. But with therapy and self-love, I've come to learn that the imprisonment I experienced was mostly up here. Love is not supposed to feel like a cage. It's supposed to feel like freedom. And I had the key to my freedom in my pocket all along. Before you can fall in love with anyone, you have to fall in love with yourself. I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. My name is Christopher, and I'm a survivor. Well, my epiphany moment was kind of funny, but it was around the time I started to find God and started to go to church. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine about the way I was feeling and how I was feeling trapped, and it felt like a never-ending cycle. And he was just telling me I was way too young to be dealing with that thing, and I should be living my life focused on my schoolwork, actually getting the most out of my college experience, which I pretty much just passed me by. It's gone now. I wish I still had it, but he was telling me that, and then he went into a store and I stayed outside, and it was one of the first times I'd ever talked to God. And I looked up into the sky and I was like, God, please just send me a sign, tell me what I should do. I feel too young, I feel trapped in this, please just show me a way out. And in that second, a car drove by, and this girl in the back seat had her window rolled down, and she looked at me and she said, "Damn, you're fine." And in that moment, I was like, thank you, God. It showed me that there's more fish in the sea. I'm so busy trying to hold something together that wasn't meant to stay together, and it was falling apart, and it was supposed to fall apart.